Hello everyone, my name is Qiaoliang from Victoria University of Wellington. I am in my final year for my Master of Landscape Architecture Studies. I would like to appreciate Marc Schnabel and Andre Brown for their support. The key words for this research are digital heritage and a cultural landscape. It is about interrogating Asian artwork and documents to manifest tangible and intangible heritage. We take Suzhou as the case study, the city just next to Shanghai. The city has the most UNESCO-recognized gardens in the world. There are various tangible and intangible heritage collected by UNESCO, such as Scholar Gardens, Suzhou Canal, and Queen Opera. When we do not normally notice or appreciate a culture, or when the remains of a society or civilization are inaccessible or scattered, virtual reality can be a successful method to recreate and then experience the past. According to Cameron and Kennedy, virtual heritage has the potential to create cultural awareness and have on side. Digital technology can enhance interpretation with interactive media, sensory experience, and augment histories. The painting Prosperous Suzhou is well known in China. It is 12 meters long, made by Qiaoliang in the 18th century, and took him 24 years. It is internationally important to describe the history of Suzhou. The painting describes terrain, urban landscapes, and daily life of Suzhou. It was a gift for the Emperor Qianlong. Most of the sites shown in the painting have disappeared. I am interested in the significant lost. For this research, we explored a heritage garden. Therefore, the research question is, how can a computationally enabled interactive interpretation of tangible and intangible cultural built heritage and landscape be exploited to allow for improved appreciation and understanding of documented histories? There are 3 stages for the aims. Firstly, I need to get a better understanding of Chinese traditional design philosophy and landscape heritage. Then explore a method to reinterpret the tangible and intangible heritage. Finally, design a digital narrative to help users to understand the design principles in an immersive environment. From the key literature, Yehuda E. Kelly said, designer of the virtual environment must not only design the context, but also the content. The content is often designed to form a narrative, the arrangement of a sequence of activities. Narrative is necessary because narrative matters for heritage conservation. They convey the significance of places. It is through stories that people express their identification with heritage. Therefore, the reinterpretation process can be divided into 2 sections: heritage context reinterpretation and heritage content reinterpretation. Context represents the geometry, building form, and space, and the content is the social heritage. Intangible heritage is augmented by representing historical written documents, and which includes invisible things and design principles. So for this study, we dig deep to find the landscape design from the painting. Therefore, we choose the heritage garden, which is called Suicu Garden. The painting is a 2-dimensional representation linked to a space. The contribution of my research is to allow the people can inhabit and understand the space. Culture is one of the crucial parts of garden design. The experiencing of Taoist natural philosophy and the Confucian morality are both extremely influenced by Chinese scholar garden. The scholar also integrate poetic and artist theme with the garden. Therefore, we normally say the classical garden of Suzhou, it is a 3-dimensional picture, a silent poem, and a phrase music. And this research is going to visualize or manifest this element. The garden was famous for its massive book collections and a superb landscape design. The owner built up the garden after he retired. They passed 4 generations to collect the book. The site of the garden is hard to find now. Fortunately, there are some people interested in this garden in the recent years. For example, last year, Wei Li, from his research, he found some possible photos of this garden, and he said the last 2 photos might be part of the garden. There are some voices calling to rebuild this garden. So for the context reinterpretation, the aims are to reinterpret the building form and the space in the water environment, and to understand and represent the design philosophies for each element. There are 3 steps for the context reinterpretation: dimension measurement, architectural exploration, and landscape exploration. Firstly, I need to extract some data from the painting. Through some testing, I confirmed the painting technique is cabinet oblique, which helped me to know the dimensions, scales, and the proportion for each component. Then I draw a speculative plan. I have taken the known dimension from the painting and mix that with the interpolation. The painting looks nice, but it is difficult to understand the design. What is the geometry and spatial relationships? Why was the components arranged in this way? Such as why there's a circular door here, and why does only this building has 2 floors? What happens in this building? What is the circulation or the journey are? What is the intangible aspect in the garden? Therefore, secondly, we need more resources to determine the details, such as functions and human habitation. Through research, I found 6 historical books or journal articles related to this garden. I assimilated them and brought them together into a 3-dimensional environment. One of the book helped me to naming all the components, and one of the journal articles described the sequences links the building form and the landscape together. After I confirmed the functions for each segment, there are several questions jumping to my mind. So why this building is called Mindfulness Library? And why listening to the rain shelter next to the circular door? And what does hold up the moon by 2 hands pavilion mean? So keep these questions in your mind, and we will explore this in the next section. And actually, historical writing documents do not describe everything. So I need to research from precedent, reference, or parallel buildings. For the complementary hall, we found a physical model in Queen Opera Museum, which helped me to reinterpret the building in detail. As I mentioned earlier, Queen Opera is one of the UNESCO Intangible Heritage. And because the museum used the painting as a reference to model this building, which also underlines the heritage value of this painting. For the Mindfulness Library, as there is no descriptions in the historical writing document, and we cannot see the interior of the painting. Therefore, I looked at similar design to model the interior. And there are the other 2 key components: listening to rain shelter and hold up the moon by 2 hands pavilion. So finally, the landscape exploration, rock, water, and plants are 3 key design elements in a scholar garden. The main theme of Chinese private garden is to follow nature as the Chinese presume harmony between human and nature. There are some portraits which describe the function or design principles for the rock, water, and the plant. According to the historical record document, I know there are more plants shown than in the painting. Therefore, I did a planting analysis. And the table includes Chinese name, botanical name, English name, the photos, and I researched which plants were popular in the 18th century garden, and I also identified all the plants shown in the painting as well. And the last column is a reference number in the planting plan. So our next picture also is the trees, and then shrubs, more shrubs, and even more shrubs. So I did a lot shrub analysis because there are no shrubs in the painting, but mentioned in the historical documents. And then it's the climbing plant and aquatic plants. Besides, I did some research on typical plant arrangement, such as shrubs are normally around the edge of the rockery, and in the humble administrative garden, they use the hardy banana near the Listening to the Rain pavilion to create a soundscape. Therefore, I located some hardy banana next to the Listening to the Rain shelter as well. The black circle represent the plant in the painting, and the green circles represent plants not representing the painting, but common in the similar gardens. Then let's move to the content reinterpretation. The aims for this section are to design heritage context in a virtual environment and to manifest the composition created between context and content, build form, and associated landscapes, as well as the tangible and intangible aspects. From the key literature, we already know normally architects or landscape architect will do not design the content. And Yehuda E. Kelly, he recommended us to learn from the filmmakers. Therefore, I borrowed the idea mise-en-scène to arrange and set up all the elements, such as actors, lighting, decor, props, sound, costumes in the virtual environment. Oral landscape plays one of the most significant roles in the Chinese garden. Simulating this intangible aspect is necessary for the content reinterpretation. As you can see from the video. The animation is crucial because it makes designers able to tell stories and communicate emotions and ideas in a unique way. The animation can also guide the users in the virtual environment. I use the trees and characters from painting rather than a real tree or a new version of a three-dimensional tree because we would like to create an original context, a heritage environment. And through scripting, the trees are always facing to you in the virtual environment. After we set up the context and content, how to communicate the context and content is necessary. The landscape design is not just design space, it is integrated between the natural environment, form space, and human habitation. So how to demonstrate these three intertwined aspects is crucial. I borrowed the idea of serial vision from English architect and urban designer Gordon Cullen. It is used to describe what a pedestrian experience when moving through a built environment with a first-person perspective. Personally, I would like to call it a real-world mise-en-scène. There are some design principles related to the composition. For example, the borrowed and hidden scenery are important techniques used in a scholar garden. This image answered my earlier question about why this building has two floors and called mindfulness library. The individuals can borrow the view from the garden and even for the landscape. Besides, from Shui Garden Journey by Sender Chen, there is a portrait described. There is the pavilion on the pond, which is called Hold Up the Moon by Two Hands Pavilion. Reflecting the sky, the wave is shaking, just like playing with the moon. I discovered why it is called Hold Up the Moon by Two Hands Pavilion. Water and moons are natural environment. Pavilion is a space, and two hands represent the human habitation. The hidden scenery has two functions. Firstly, it is to block the view, and also encourage people to explore inside. It is hard to find this principle in the painting. After making the site model, I found individuals can say the activity center from the interest. But this actually is not logic in Chinese garden. So after the painting analysis, I realized there is a trees is using to block the view. Through setting up the lighting systems, It enables us to represent composition around the pavilion and the pond within time changing, the shadows, and reflection. So please have a look for this video. This one is around the pavilion, and next one is around the pond. This overview is one of the screenshots from a real-time game engine. The pixelated virtual environment, it can be seen as the virtual sketch or dynamic serial vision. It could enhance the intangible experience because it's hardly to see the tangible component. I set up two different methods, the Vive Headset and Hive 3D. Hive 3D, also called the source of VR, it allows multi-users to experience the virtual environment in a common social setting. So overall, the research explored the gap between digital heritage and the cultural landscape. It demonstrated that the immersive and interactive virtual environment can enhance the user's experience through both tangible and intangible reinterpretation. Reinterpreting the painting in VR, which enables an immersive, continuous first-person journey through the designed space. It is not a copy of the painting, and it should not make a virtual version from the painting. They use the painting as a key reference to reinterpret the landscape design ideas and augmented by historical writing documents. Using computational design to capture all of the information together, assimilate it and understand it first, then bring them together into a three-dimensional environment. I did not put everything in the virtual environment because considering the power of the computer, it is easier for the GPU to run the real-time game engine. This research has increased my appreciation of my Chinese culture. For example, I noticed the soundscape in the garden but never realized our landscape is that important and carefully designed, such as using the rain or wind with the plant or geometries to create a soundscape. Besides, I never had the experience of holding up the moon by two hands in a pavilion as well. The design new method can enable individuals to experience and understand the cultural value of the scholar garden. The method represents heritage, context, and content, and the outcome is manifested tangible and intangible heritage. And now we are moving to the garden now. Thank you so much for your attention. That's all.